Howdy everyone, welcome back to another Thursday live stream. Got the haircut, courtesy of Dorcula. Got that done last night, so I'm in full mode ready to live stream today. What do we got going? Mostly just gonna chat. I want to address a lot of the normal chatters. So we've turned off super chats for this one. Yes, it makes us money, but it is disruptive in that like you feel obligated to answer that. So I'm going to try to not do that. You can still do some stickers, I guess, but if you wanted to show appreciation, we always recommend becoming a member. And at the end of this live stream, we're actually going to last 20 or 30 minutes, if I remember. If I don't, well, that's going to happen. But I'm gonna try and switch it to members only that can chat, so that way I can address theirs. And we'll see if that's a working system. It could be a train wreck. I don't know. All right. If you're not already showing up early, typically we chat and hang out. Today I was a fly on the wall and I was reading lots of comments for the last couple hours, really. But normally people get in here and we have about 100 people chatting for an hour before we go live. And so someone said, I hope he talks about breeding Corydoras. So we're going to start there today because I've got my Corydora Love t-shirt on, which I got from Friday Fish Fest. Is that right? Friday? No. Yes, maybe? I don't know. Someone will correct me. They know. The guy that always does the Reddit tank reviews. I don't know. I can't keep them all straight. I don't know. But breeding Corydoras, something that I've been encouraging like Randy to get into and a few other people because it's very rewarding. I find something about those catfish. So one, I love them, but two, breeding them is not that difficult, and when you're successful, you typically can make a lot of them. So there's a couple different groups. There's things like panda Corydoras that lay like 7 eggs at a time, and they're gonna hide them in moss and just not gonna see that many. Same with like Hasbrosis, Pygmaeus, Dottis. They're not huge spawners, but then you've got things like Ananias Corys, like the bronze and the binos, turbis, all that kind of stuff, where they're gonna lay hundreds and hundreds of eggs at a time. Now I think there's kind of a couple steps there. One, getting them to lay the first time, some people will never experience. Takes a lot of food. So we use a lot of Rapashi foods when we're doing it. And we put in like, I don't know, like big chunks, like this well, no, like this. I would say like this worth. Like this much food. Like you put it in your container, you let it solidify and all that. And then you cut this giant chunk out and let them eat on that for like 24 hours plus. And you do that a couple of weeks in a row. So you might feed that on Monday, you do nothing, well, not nothing, but you feed normally, and then like on Thursday you hit them with that big batch of food again. You do your water change on the weekend. Monday you hit them with that big thing of food again, and eventually boom, there's going to be a bunch of eggs. And they tend to lay them on the glass, but they can lay them in mosses or spawning mops or on pieces of wood. Typically they prefer a vertical surface, but I've seen it happen everywhere. And so you're going to get all these eggs if you've done that part successfully. You can also use tons and tons of frozen foods, but they can foul the water after a while, so that's why I like Rapashi, or a lot of live food. That was my other tactic, but that gets very expensive. Once you get all these eggs, the trick is, after they're done spawning, well, if you only have the Corydoras, after they're done spawning, they'll typically start eating them. If you have other fish in there, they'll lay some eggs, a fish will come by, and they'll eat them. So you typically want to spawn them alone. But once you have all these eggs on the glass or whatever they've laid on, you then want to get them out of there because they will go and eat them after a little while. So I typically use like what is this little wallet I bought? So like this is a piece of cardboard, but you had a credit card, works really well. Or I don't have the prop in front of me because I'm terrible at my job, but the mag float scrapers work really well as well. So the blade, and the goal is, so you've got this piece of glass, you've got all these eggs peppered on it, and you just want to come up underneath them and kind of collect them and get them to come off onto the card or the scraper. From there, you kind of just lift them out and you go put them in like maybe a saucer or a tub, something. Collect as many as you can. And then what you typically do is you use something to keep them from fungusing. Now, I say something because it's getting more difficult. It used to be I'd always recommend methylene blue, but now that really no one's producing it anymore, try to get some of that if you got it. Turn the water blue, that helps a bunch. If not, at this point, like if I had Corydoras tomorrow, if I had eggs tomorrow and I wanted to hatch them and I didn't have methylene blue, which I do, but if I didn't have methylene blue, I would Google and research using hydrogen peroxide, which that's probably just as hard to get right now. Because I know we use it for cleaning. Well, here's a little tip. We use hydrogen peroxide to clean algae off of the trays we keep plants in. Every once in a while, they get some algae buildup. We spray it down with hydrogen peroxide. Let it sit for like 5 minutes. Give it a little scrubberino. Give it a good rinse, and then it's ready to put away in the racks to dry. Then when we get plants in, we go take those racks, we put the plants in, we put them back into water. But I know that hydrogen peroxide is not easy to find. They're limiting it at grocery stores and stuff because we can't buy it in bulk like we usually do. We usually just go, oh, let's get a case of this stuff, lasts us for a while. But right now, it's really, we got to buy some every time we go. But hydrogen peroxide can also be used to keep fungus off of eggs in the correct dosages. And that is not a dosage I know off the top of my head because I have never needed to do it. But there are angelfish breeders and other breeders that swear by how hydrogen peroxide is actually better than methylene blue. But as you guys probably know, I'm a guy that once I get a method that works for me, I don't change it. So if I have success with methylene blue, I always use methylene blue. Now that's getting harder to get, I'm going to have to become proficient with the hydrogen peroxide, and then I would know that off the top of my head, but today I don't. So then what's going to happen is over the days, you're going to get some of those eggs that probably fungus up. They never got fertilized correctly by the males, and it's usually best to take those out, and that's why we're putting in the hydrogen peroxide or the methylene blue, and the goal is when they do start to fungus, we want to inhibit that, not let it spread. Because if we did nothing, once a couple eggs start fungusing, the whole batch becomes this fungus mess and they all die. We're trying to prevent that. So it's best to get like a pipette, which, as always, if I'm terrible at my job, I don't have one of those around. But if you had a pipette, you can cut off the tip. So they're pretty fine, but if you go higher up, you can cut off the tip there, and you can kind of take and extract single eggs out of there so they don't spread. Yeah? Okay, I don't need one. But props. And I have a wet one of the mag floats, but you would collect the eggs on your scraper there, and then you could deposit those into your container. Where was I? Fungusing eggs, using the pipette, and cutting it off to extract the single eggs. That minimizes the amount of fungus. So then you're going to get to a point where they're actually hatching out. And at that point, when they're hatching, usually you don't have to feed them for a few days. But the game plan after that is going to have some small foods. And so hatching out live baby brine is a great, great option. I can't stress how great that option is. It is the most work. After that, you can fill in with some other foods like microworms, vinegar eels, but those aren't as great. They're not nutritionally as good, and there's actually some problems long term if you only ever feed vinegar eels or those microworms. They can actually develop some different problems, and I can't remember. Usually, it's like what is it? It's like a bacterial infection for some reason. I don't know why, but bettas will also get it. So you want to vary the diet a little bit. The problem doesn't exist with brine shrimp, baby brine shrimp, and that's why, one, it's a better food in general. Two, you can make it up the day before, so you can always kind of like have some eggs sitting in a closet. Oh man, we have eggs of Corydoras in 4 days or whatever it's going to be. I'm going to go hatch some brine shrimp eggs. So you get that going. You're feeding them. You might even keep them in that little container. And if you watch like our video we made on floating basket, you could do some floating, if you have that backer rod, some floating bowls. And what's really nice is you can kind of just like let some of the water in to do that water change after you feed. That's one way to raise them. And then once they eventually get big enough where they're eating maybe rapashi or some wafers, something like that, it's kind of easy. You just got to raise them up big enough so they don't get eaten by other fish. And so it is a very rewarding experience when you just have like, oh, I raised up 100 of these things. And even if you're raising maybe the cheapest one, the albino Corydora, if you raise them to like a size you would see at the store, usually you can get at least like $1 from your local pet store. Now, if you have a chain store, you might be out of luck, but in general, I believe that mom and pop stores want to support local hobbyists, and at $1 a piece, I think that is doable. dollar store credit. Now, if you got 100 of them, your local store might only want 12 or 25. Like we would typically want like 50 at a time. So we would go, oh, we want 2 batches, probably 1 month after another. So, you know, plan that. So just because I said, oh, stores will buy them, doesn't mean they're going to hand you $100 tomorrow. Like they've got to sell them. And right now it's kind of a weird situation in general when it comes to being a retail store. So, but that'd be the minimum. Whereas you start breeding stir-by Corydoras or orange laser Corydoras or barbatus Corydoras, and all of a sudden you might be getting $6, $7, $8, $10 store credit or cash a piece. You're going, whoa, they laid hundreds. And usually you can spawn way more than a local area will consume. And so, you know, don't raise everyone you ever see, but it could fund your hobby. Or you can have that big school. That's still something on my to-do list I kind of want to do. Eventually, some giant school in the 800 gallon, maybe years down the road, where 3, 4, 500 Corydoras in there doing their thing. All right, I think I covered Corydora breeding a little bit. You know, there's definitely some intricacies there. There's a lot of, I want to call them urban legends because I would say that they don't necessarily not work, but a lot of, well, what I do, you know, like I always do the cold water change. I always do a large water change. I think all of those things are good things. You know, changing lots of water, feeding really well. Those are good for all fish. A little bit of cooler water, I haven't directly seen. Like I was feeding really well and doing big water changes and they wouldn't breed, but then I did cold water and they did breed. If you're feeding really well and you're doing a lot of water changes, which means good water quality, typically they're breeding anyway. I've never specifically had to use cooler water to make the breeding happen. A lot of times what people do is they go from trying not at all to trying really hard. And if you weren't trying at all and they weren't spawning, you're not really disappointed because you weren't trying. But then when you do spawn them and you're like, well, I fed them really well and I did cool water changes, the advice you typically give there forward is that's how you got it to work. So you'll keep telling that. And I don't think it's a bad thing. And I don't think it necessarily doesn't work, but I also don't think that it is the catalyst of like, if the water wasn't cool enough, they won't spawn. I think it's just a happy accident of like, yeah, it works, wives' tale or whatever. And, you know, I think it matters a lot more if you live in Arizona with no air conditioning and it's super hot versus you live in Washington where it's not super hot. Maybe that cool water makes a lot more difference. You know, I'm not even saying my way is the correct way. Just know that a lot of these, this is the way you have to do it. It isn't always the case. All right. Picking up a new member from Andrew. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. Oh yeah, a new video coming out this Sunday is going to be a kind of a what do they call it? Compilation video. That's what the word I was looking for, and that would be of the Peru trips. And it was really fun to watch this video because I had forgotten some of the first trip, and the second trip's mixed in there. And if you guys haven't watched any of the Peru videos, it'll be great because you get to watch them all. But the highlight clip, I don't know if it's just because I was there and there's really good memories for me, or if it's just really actually good content to watch. We'll see what you guys think. But that's what's coming out this Sunday. I've been trying to plan to do more videos, but I don't want to do just talking head videos. I've made a decision that instead of doing more just talking head videos, I want to do more live streams to be interactive with you guys. And so that means the videos that we do make, I want them to be with some substance and show stuff that I couldn't just do in my own house. You know, yeah, there's gonna be some fish room stuff, but that would be like the trips going around the world. I spent actually some time with Dean. We talked for a couple hours on what are our plans when we finally kind of the state opens up and it's safe for us to be near each other and that kind of stuff. And we talked through different ways of putting the background in the 800 gallon, you know, real nerd tech stuff of like, well, how are we gonna prop up the background while it dries without scratching the acrylic? The best idea we have so far is using lids from fish shipment boxes against the acrylic and using PVC pipe cut to fit to tension against it. And we're going to start from one end, have one person, well, so the silicone is actually time sensitive. It starts setting within about 5 minutes. So both of us are going to have a silicone gun, putting as much silicone as we can kind of get on the back panel of the aquarium. Then start at one end, have one person really kind of like hold it with their body against it inside the aquarium. The other person's also inside the aquarium, probably kind of hunkered down with PVC cutters, PVC, and that styrofoam to like put one up top, put one down low, and then move over about a foot, hold that against it really well, and keep doing that, and try to pull that move off in 5 minutes to get all the way to the end. Now, we might have to do it in a couple of sections. That's going to be a game time decision, but yeah, we're just spending lots of time thinking about that kind of stuff because we can't really do anything else. You know, Dean's got tons of fish at his place right now, but can't go over there to film it. He can't come over here. And we're actually trying to figure out how do we get some of those fish to the store, and then how do we sell them in a safe way. And so the idea we have, which we haven't enacted yet because it takes a lot of moving pieces, is get, you know, if he's got a bunch of something ready to go, we will take a bunch of that to the store. He will take a bunch of that to the store, kind of drop it off. He'll have shot a little video, maybe a little video clip of the fish, and then we'll probably post on maybe here on YouTube, the community page, and Facebook, and say like, you know, tomorrow only or whatever, you can go and order those for a curbside pickup at the store. So because we know that kind of stuff sells out fast, but we need to move some fish, and kind of gives you guys something to do. And we're still evaluating the safest way to run the retail store. If I'm being honest, the you know, employees are worried about safety, is very appropriate, and then there is customers worried about safety. You know, we got to sterilize enough, and then there is the fact that kind of kids are out of school, and there's a lot of people that might be out of work. And so before we went into kind of the quarantine area for the store, COVID, school was already out, and what we found is we'd kind of turned into like a public aquarium where it's like, well, we got nothing else to do. The kids are super bored, so we're gonna spend a couple hours here hanging out, looking at fish, which is any other time great, right? Looking at fish is a great thing, but when we have to limit how many people can be in the store, we can't really have a family of 5 hang out for 2 hours if the cap in the store is 10 people and 3 of them are employees, right? So we have to figure out how are we gonna maintain peace and slowly guide people through the checkout process and all of that, and keep safe and sterilize enough, and make sure that, you know, employees are getting breaks and all that kind of stuff. So we haven't put the plan 100% together yet. Places are just starting to open here in Washington, and we're kind of looking and seeing how that goes, and what's being successful, what's not being successful. And you know, the other big problem right now is even if we just open up the doors, you guys would, well, not necessarily, but we'd have people come in and be all excited and they'd be like, you don't have nearly enough fish. Fish are really not coming into the country. You know, right now we're working with one of our plant vendors, and we had found out that we basically have to order a bunch of plants, give them our money, and then when a plane is available, they'll ship it. And so we could, you know, place a bunch of orders for plants right now. It might come next week or the week after or in 5 weeks, right? So that's like makes it really hard to plan of like, well, are they coming or aren't they coming? But there's no other way because the flights, they book so fast. When a flight, I think this farm happens to be in Thailand. When a flight is available from Thailand to the US, the cargo space books so fast that if they just don't pull the trigger right away, we will never make it onto that. So we kind of have to prepay first, but it's very sporadic on when planes are coming in. And so much so right now, one of the reasons I can do the live stream, we have 2 plant shipments coming in tonight. One lands at 6 o'clock, which is another kind of hour and 40 minutes from now. Another one lands at 9 o'clock tonight. So I'll pick them both up tomorrow morning because the airlines, being that they run so few flights, have reduced cargo pickup hours. So they close at like 7 o'clock now. They used to be open until 2 o'clock in the morning. Now they close at 7. I'll get there early tomorrow. I'll pick up all the plants. After we're done shipping all your guys' orders out, we will then unpack tons of plants, which that is something I've been focusing on very much in the last week or so. Well, we've been focused on it for probably 3 months now, but intensely in the last week of being out of stock on plants. We know that it's frustrating for you guys. I'm reading the studies and all of that, and I've actually got an Excel spreadsheet open right here that shows something as simple as Anubias barderi, which is a very common plant in my opinion. In the last 90 days, we've been out of stock 61 of those days. So, you know, 2 out of 3 times we're out of stock on something simple like Anubias barderi. Now, there's always been issues with Anubias in general in massive quantities, and so, but that number is worse than we want to see. So I want to devise a system. How can we prevent or reduce this? And so we did measuring yesterday, and today I ordered 40 more aquariums to hold more plants. It's not a storage issue, but we want to make sure we have enough storage capacity. So it's not like we're only ordering 50 because we can only store 50. We order 200 and they send 50 because that's all they have. That's the problem we're at right now. But we want to make sure that we're always ahead on that throughput. So we measured racking, and we're going to have the racking installed, and we have the tanks being produced, which I'm waiting to hear back on if they're currently producing or there'll be some lag time before they start producing. And even if they are open, will they have the acrylic? Can they get the acrylic? That kind of stuff. So we are working on that, and yeah. So I want to figure out something as common as Anubias barderi with as many plant vendors as we have. How can we be out of stock this much? Now, on a normal year, maybe a year ago, maybe we were out of stock half the time, which that's still a lot. And so I'm faced with this. Do we frustrate customers and keep being sold out? Do we not sell it? What do we do to fix this problem? And so I think part of it is we're going to look for some more vendors. Like, is there some other vendors outside of the countries we're already buying from, which is America, and different Asianic, right term, Asianic countries? Is there some other countries we could purchase from and expand our reach to find more Anubias to be available? And there's other plants too, you know, like Vallisneria, for instance, which is a plant that comes from America. It's native to America. We have it in stock 85% of it. And so part of that, like that one would be, someone says chat's not working. That's super weird. That's true. YouTube's been having problems, but I'm gonna keep talking anyway. I can run this ship without questions. Hopefully. Live chat is unavailable. Dang. YouTube's been having some problems for sure. There's been a lot of outages in the internet world in the last week, making even sales harder. But something with Vallisneria, you know, being that it is a plant native to the United States, you would think that like, oh, we could always get that, but we still run into forecasting problems. So 85% of the time it's in stock, which is fairly good. It's not great, but you know, sometimes there'll be a run on how many will sell and that kind of stuff. And so we're going to look to improve that. That is one where I believe if we stock more of it, we could get that down to less than 5% being out of stock. And that's my goal. My goal is to get it to where our plants are out of stock less than 5% of the time. Now, there's other plants like dwarf aquarium lily bulbs. There's just none to be bought. Money can't buy them. They're not in the country. They're not coming into the country because that's a plant that comes from out of the country. And where they come from, it's Africa, right? They're just not coming in. So that one, fairly good in stock rate when we can buy it, but it can't be bought, and that's mostly due to airlines and stuff right now. So we have to identify, is this an airline problem? Is this a forecasting problem? Or is this, you know, is this a bigger issue here? So, you know, I think it's a mix, a mix of all. So the other one that desperately Candy wants me to address here, and we'll have to address it 100 times over, but we have dwarf Sagittaria in stock, and we said it's, you know, one of our most sold plants. What is in the picture on our website versus what is being sent to you looks different. So why? Let me explain why. We used to buy from one farm, basically out of Thailand, right? And it came in and it was already submerged grown, mostly. Say mostly, because we're 100%. But we, as we, you know, been talking here, we can't order from that farm like at all anymore. So now we're getting it from the United States. It costs us more money, but it comes in immersed. So what does that mean? That means it's been grown out of water. So the leaves look really big. We put it underwater, it starts growing underwater leaves as we're selling it to you. When you get it, you're going to get like some underwater leaves, some bigger, weird looking leaves. Now, we've taken some steps to help with this. We have some on the way to Jimmy for him to take new photographs so we can put up the website, so what your expectations will be. We also, in this whole big thing we've been talking about, how do we better educate everyone? And so what we're going to try and do long term, if it makes sense, we've got a couple plants we're going to pilot this on, and that would be show what the plant is likely to look like when you order it. So that would be kind of an immersed state, or, you know, depends on the plant really, but, you know, what it looks like, what you would get. Then show it like, what would we expect 1 or 2 weeks later in your home aquarium? And then what does it look like when, you know, a real plant wizard's growing it and they've got everything dialed in and it looks the best thing you've ever seen. And those are 3 very different looks, I think. And, you know, a lot of places will show you what it looks like when a plant wizard has it. And I just don't think that is the right thing to do when who I target is I target people that are newer to the hobby, people that want to run a fish room, people that just want live plants and all the benefits, but not necessarily devote all their time into one aquarium. But that doesn't serve the people that want to do that because they don't even know what it's going to look like. So we're trying to, you know, I'm envisioning picture number 1, and that's what you're going to get in the mail. Picture number 2 might say on it 2 weeks later. That's, you know, you're going to see it in a transition form, might look at its worse. Like a cryptocorn would look terrible at 2 weeks. It's like, it looks like a pile of mush, right? But at 6 weeks or, you know, 8 weeks, it looks really cool. Whereas, you know, maybe dwarf Sagittaria, like we talked about at the beginning, from one vendor, it would look like it's all immersed. From the next vendor, it's mostly submerged, and it mostly looks the same 2 weeks later. And then at the 6 week mark, maybe it's taller and more filled in. But we run into these weird things of different farms grow things differently based on temperatures, based on the amount of light they're getting in the world, how long their days are, how long they cut it. You know, some plants can be really tall, but they might be cutting it and they might be starting each potted plant this tall, where another farm starts them this tall, and vice versa, right? So there's a lot of variance there, and this variance is just because the leaf structure is different, it's throwing a lot of people for a loop, and therefore they're sending customer service emails. So I'm doing my part to help Candy out here and say, you know, if you get that weird looking dwarf Sagittaria, it is the right plant, grown, immersed. Give it some time, it'll convert, no worries at all. Yeah. All right. Still having, you know, still stuff's trickling in with some people can't get into the live stream. It could be having some problems. Yeah, YouTube is, you know, it's a fickle beast that we love to tangle with. So hopefully the ones that are here get to stay here. Hopefully it'll get fixed. We like that we get new members from Logan, Keeney, Wanda, John Rocks 24, and who knows what else could be broken. But we do have, you know, the good news is I'm still in contact with YouTube, and there's some new features we'll get to test out, but I had to sign non-disclosure agreements again, so you don't get to know about them until I actually use them. So it's weird, because I can't tell you more because I don't want to cut out of the program, but you'll get to see us do things that other channels can't do, which is fun. But, you know, for all I know, that's what broke this. All right, so I'm gonna read chat, even though we lost it. Hopefully we'll get back some. I know there's a weird silence. Akari first bites being helpful in the stage between brine shrimp. Yeah, Akari first bites are a great product. I pretty much always have it on hand. I use it a lot. I need to promote it more. Not something we sell enough of, but we're working on that too. Because there's, you know, what happens over time is products I love, I talk about for maybe a couple months to a year, and then I'm just like, yeah, everyone knows I love that, but I don't realize that a year later, there's 150,000 new people that have never watched the old videos and don't know I've ever said anything about them. So, and it really, you know, if you guys are watching live streams, you know that the new Sarah Onip tabs suck, right? Like, you know that. But we still get people emailing and talking to me almost daily, like, wait, you don't sell Onip tabs anymore? What happened? It's like, no, they're not good anymore, right? So, you know, that's, we have to make our advertising or our message more redundant, and that's something I need to work And so part of that we'll be doing more live streams. I think that's gonna but then making sure we get that messaging out there. By the way, I wanted to got a nice email from someone about our blog, and that is the PHKH and PHKH and GH. And we know a lot of people struggle with this. We get a lot of questions about it through email. So we had Irene write an article. Then I scrubbed it a bunch where that language is too technical. We should do it this way. And we really massaged that for a couple weeks. And we released it. And he said, finally, there's an article that I can understand. I've been looking at this for weeks and wasn't making heads or tails. And so if you go into our blog and you don't understand KH, PH, and GH, this article hopefully will bridge that gap for you. And we're spending a lot of time and resources working on those kinds of subjects. Another one we were getting quite a bit was how to actually plant plants. And we've done videos on that in the past and stuff like that, but you know, we didn't have a real solid guide. And so now we have that on the blog as well. And over time, we're going to start incorporating that into some of the emails that get sent out, and you know, making sure that you know Anubias, how you attach that to a rock or wood, and don't put it necessarily in the substrate, or at least don't bury the rhizome. And so we're building out these assets to, you know, make it easier for everyone, especially the newcomer. The newcomer needs that extra guide, or at least can you. I don't know if you guys can see, because who knows if you guys can even see the live stream at all at this point, but right there is a baby goldfish. They never really swim up front, but they are getting big enough to be seen on camera. That's kind of. But someone was asking earlier, what are the plans, or have I decided to fish to breed outside and bring it with ladybird? I still think rosy barbs are they would look really cool, and they're good algae. That's a fish I don't recommend very often, but they actually are pretty good. Most barbs are fairly good at eating a little bits of hair algae. When you have an army of them, works pretty well. And so I am thinking about breeding some of those outside. We'll see. If you guys have been following on the community page, and if you're a member, you've been seeing we were working on the front pond in front of my house with the koi, and then we've been also working on the backyard a little bit, kind of cleaning up and working on the ponds a little bit. And so as I spend more time outside, when the weather turns nicer, I typically breed more fish outside. And so that's something I'm working on. But everything has kind of gotten delayed, and I choose to be a part of the solution instead of the part of the problem. So while I could probably finagle my way to buy some more ponds, I'm waiting, you know, as long as I can to prevent that, because I want to replace the ponds that are in the fish room, those larger ones with smaller ones, take those larger ones, put them outside, get some fish in them. Daphnia, which I think in my fish room update, I showed the Daphnia and couldn't see any of them. Well, now that water is clear and you can see a bunch of Daphnia. So the Daphnia are going gangbusters, which is good. Going to start harvesting and feeding some of those. Yeah, so it's, you know, a lot of work to be done, a lot of testing to be done, and we're working on it. I need to redose area tanks to see if 2x the recommended dose will actually get it, because 1x like the normal. I have a case of it, I think, right? Yeah, I've got a case of this stuff. The Expel P. It's not working the way I want it to. Yeah, because right here it says internal, external parasites, nodular worm, roundworm. Huh. I might be throwing shade where shade isn't due, because at one point this product packaging definitely said it got rid of planaria and bristleworms for saltwater, but I'm not seeing that, because I did call it out and say, like, you better make sure it actually treats that if you're gonna call it out. Okay, here, so on the back it does say it can be used for coral dip, to treat for flatworms, pest nudibranchs, tapeworms, flukes. But the ingredient in here, which is levamisol, should take care of planaria. And if the dosage is on here, it's not, which, to be fair, on this package, it's not saying it does. So, at least without reading through the whole thing. But I'm going to find the dosage before we start selling it. And that's, I would say that's my commitment to you guys. Oh, I got an avalanche of products now. My commitment to you guys is I'm really going to test stuff before I sell it. And this is like, I'm sure you guys are buying it to get rid of Camellinus redworm from competitors or whoever's selling it. But when I do launch it, I really want to be able to give you guys correct dosages. And so even if we lose money, well, we're not losing money because we're selling it, but even if we're losing the sales, I guess, the potential sales, I'd rather be on the right side of the fence of, like, let's say it doesn't work at all. I'd rather not sell it and wait until we can find what actually works before we just jump in and sell all the things. Heard that chat is working again, but I don't know if that's true. It's working for Dean at least, so I'm gonna see if I can get my chat up and rolling again. I'm gonna open a new window and see if that. I think my back end where I have to run the stream is. Try pulling up here. Oh yeah, Shane did a sticker. So yes, all right, here we go. I'm gonna pop this chat open. You guys would go crazy if you saw how many like windows and screens I gotta have open. So someone says chat no worky, but someone else says chat is working. Candy Overhaul says, pretty sure no one heard you say it's dwarf sag. There could be cut out at that point when I was talking that whole spiel about being Emer's grown. That all was particular to dwarf Sagittaria. So I'll try again next week, Candy. That's the best I can do. I'm not going to go into it again because if you already had to listen to it, it'll be unbearable. If you didn't, my phone is blowing up. Everyone wants to tell me chat is back. Okay. Candy says it's working now. My wife says chat is back. All right. All the helpers confirmed. We're back. We're good. So everyone reload the chat. I think if you just refresh your page, you'll probably get it back there, which will be good for you. And yeah, YouTube. What are you going to do? What's my preferred method on keeping water clear? Funny you should ask. We actually are writing a blog article about that. And, I just read through it and made my recommendations the other day. Pretty thorough article, actually. And, the reason why it's hard to answer is because, like, well, what's causing? Is it particles in the water? Is it green water? Is it bacterial bloom? Is it tannins? Those are at least 4 different ways in which you could have not clear water. And so we have recommendations on every single one of those, the ways to do it. But in general, I would say that, keep clear water, feed clean foods. Now, what does that mean? That just means that if there's not a lot of cast off, and what does that mean? I don't have, do I have? Moved a lot of foods. Okay, here's one. So what would that mean? That would mean like in this betta food, when you get to the bottom of it and you were to like dig all the way down, I had to dig down there. You see how there's no dust and everything? Maybe better if I show you the bottom. Oh, there's like no dust. Oh man. I just dumped so many betta pellets into my keyboard. No joke. Oh. Well. Occupational hazard, I guess. Not only is it on my shirt, but it is in my keyboard. It's probably gonna crunch when I type. Anyway, let me put the lid on this. The dust that would be at the bottom, that would be the fine particulate matter. That means if you've got the dust at the bottom, that means it's on the food too. So when you put it into the water and you feed, little bits of particles are always going to come off. Now, if you have a food that's crazy messy, like one of them is pretty messy, would be Rapashi food. Great for breeding Corydoras, not necessarily great for having crystal clear water. So, like, feeding clean helps a lot. Filtration helps, and water changes help. Now, obviously, if you have green water, bacterial bloom, tannins, all of those are going to be handled in different ways. And I would say right now, if you're not, there's a call to action for all you guys in here. If you're not already signed up for the Aquarium Co-op newsletter, you're missing out. Like, I don't know if I can quantify how much money we're spending on it, but we spend a lot of money to craft these articles with the very best knowledge we can obtain. I myself proofread them, make adjustments, send them back for rewriting. Like, we're putting a lot of attention towards this. And all you have to do is go onto the Aquarium Co-op website. You can click the account button. You can make yourself an account, or you can go to the blog and you can sign up. There's even, like, on the left-hand menu right at the bottom, it says sign up there. Any of those. And then when you get an email from us, because it's going to send you an email and it's going to say, hey, are you sure you want to be subscribed to them? They're crazy. Like, yes. If you really want to be good, you'd say, mark this as safe and not spam, and you'll always get them. We send one a week. And that's one detailed article. Doesn't mean you're going to love every article, but the last, I'll read you guys the last few articles we have released so that you can form your own opinion. So the last one released was The Fish Keeper's Guide to pH, GH, and KH. One before that was a quick guide on how to plant aquarium plants. One before that was how to cure fungus on your aquarium fish. We did a guide to pea puffers. We did 10 best cleanup crew ideas for your aquarium. How to culture vinegar eels. A discus care guide. How to properly clean your fish tank. That kind of pertains to this. Top 10 easy aquarium plants. 10 best cold water fish. Easy guide to the nitrogen cycle. And how to use pothos in your aquarium. So, we're putting in quite a bit of effort there. And if you're here to get educated for this live stream, I feel like you're missing out. And we try to keep them engaging. We write them as though we're a hobbyist talking to another hobbyist. We're not going crazy technical jargon. We write it with a writing style that could be from me. It comes from Irene. It's her writing style, but she writes to mimic me. She's very skilled in how she writes. And so we want it to be fun and interactive. And the average read on these 6 minutes, 7 minutes, 5 minutes, this is something you can do on a lunch break. Or just a break at work or whatever. You sit down to eat lunch at home maybe right now, and you read and you do a little bit of education. And a lot of these articles, it's like a live stream. So you might watch a 2-hour live stream and come away with some piece of knowledge. Well, you might read a 5-minute article and you might already know all there is to know about curing fish fungus, but you might learn one little thing, and it's good to kind of brush up on it. And one of the best things, I think, is when you're in those Facebook groups, when your buddy gets an aquarium and they're struggling and they don't know what pH and KH and GH is, you can link them that article that we've spent a lot of time going, will someone actually understand this? Someone that doesn't know this, will they understand? Because it's really hard, we find, to help you understand something when you don't know it. And I know that seems logical, but you can't expect someone to know what they don't know. And so we write it, and then I read it and go, okay, if you've never had an aquarium before, does that word make sense? Like, one of them was mulm. And I'm like, you just got an aquarium yesterday, you don't understand the word mulm. We have to take the word mulm out and replace it with a common day term, garbage, or something like that. Like some way, so it's not, you have to have insider knowledge to understand these things. So we spend more time than I'd like to admit really trying to do this, and we try our best. Hope you guys are utilizing that resource because we put a lot of effort. Thanks for the new memberships, by the way. I do appreciate that. All right. Would I ever do more videos with Greg Sage in the future? Possibly. So he had some medical issues last year. We're also pretty busy. I think it's a good chance I would go out to the old Addo, because employees live out there as well, which is nice. And so I can do, some visits. I could do Greg Sage. The problem with Greg Sage's fish room is that it's crazy loud in there. And so maybe what I'll do is I'll send him some linear air piston pumps to run that fish room, quiet it down a bunch, so that when we go to film, it'll be audible. And by the way, he has his own YouTube channel. If you don't know that, Select Aquatics has their own YouTube channel, but he does a lot of his audio up in his office. So he films fish, then he goes and does the audio because it's so loud in there. And when I typically show up, it's more of an interview style, and so we're doing it on the fly, and so the audio is really tough in there. But yeah, I mean, going wrong. Love the fish he does. Good friend of mine, and I always have a good time hanging out. By the way, we launched a new product, and I don't think I showed you guys. I've been busy. But when we launched our linear air piston pumps, which I installed on my pond a few days ago, someone was asking if we had the valves to install into PVC. We didn't at the time, but now we do. You would drill a hole, then you can grab this with a drill, which drill next to me in the other room, but you put this in the chuck, and you can literally spin this in to the PVC with the correct hole. It just drills in. And then you have a tap. Boom. And so we sell these in 5-packs for like $6 or something. And they're the nice metal ones right there. That's a horrible shot. Sorry, that doesn't look better. But they were right in my pocket for a whole day, and the bag got all beat up. So yeah, you know, we're slowly, continually adding products when we can, slow and steady. You know, test a lot of things. Eventually, usually we'll carry everything that will meet our standards. We just have higher standards. That, by the way, hashtag #FluVolTrippin' had to step in today and help one of our customers who bought a light. FluVol's customer service team, whoever was answering that specific ticket, I don't know. I don't know if they've been working there for 7 minutes or they just didn't care, but they were leading our customer astray, something fierce. And so I took a bunch of pictures and all of that, and now they're set straight, got their light working well, and yeah. So just had to vent with FluVol. FluVol, I don't know. I like from our standpoint of company, and this is from obviously the owner's standpoint. So you guys might have a different opinion, but every day I wake up and go, how can I make this just a little bit better? And I think over time we actually get better. I think. But with FluVol, I don't know if anyone's waking up at the beginning of the day going, how do we make FluVol better? Because I swear it's like they're only getting worse. Fulfillment times are getting worse. Customer service is getting worse. Like, I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there other than it's like on fire. Maybe they're in triage mode, but you know, it's taking forever for our stuff to get fulfilled. We're ordering way in advance. There's lots of holes. And so we keep having to like cut them out of the loop. Like you can't work with people. It's like an employee. You can't work with, or a coworker. You can't work with someone that only shows up 40% of the time. You can't say, okay, I need you here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And they go, well, I will show up 2 out of those days. Can't you tell you which ones? But 2 of those days. In fact, I can't even guarantee I'll be there 2 times this week. I can be there 8 times this month, but I have no idea what days. Like that's what it's like ordering from FluVol right now. Of like, you order it and it could be 6 weeks till you get it, or it could ship tomorrow. And when it does arrive, oh, we shipped 1/3 of it. Why? Because we had some of that in stock. We didn't have that stuff in stock. Oh, are you going to ship the rest of it? Sometimes we will. Sometimes we're going to forget about it and never ship it. Oh, well, that's helpful. Good. Now I have no idea whether to order more or from a different vendor or anything. Great. That's basically the life of FluVol at the moment. And you know, we know COVID has made it worse, you know, so that just like, you know, put gas on the fire type of thing for them. But, you know, we need some transparency, you know, and it started before COVID, by the way. How is it that they launched the FluVol 3.0 15-inch light meant for 10-gallon tanks? It launched retail before we even ever heard of it. We're their #1 dealer. How do you do that, right? We had to find out from a customer that said, hey, do you sell this light? And we go, what? What do you mean? And then they finally sent us one to look at. Then we ordered more, but yeah, it's a weird time with them right now, and it's not good, not easy. So I don't know anymore. But I do wake up each day going, how do we get better? Like we don't have to get a whole lot better because getting a whole lot better is hard to do. But I like to at least try and put out a fire. What's the thing that's really irritating customers today? What's the thing that, you know, keeps Randy up at night? We try just to knock some of these out every day. Try to get one done. One of my tiger barbs has been getting thinner and thinner. Been staying in one spot and gasping. What's wrong with it? Oof. Don't know. Could be getting bullied, you know. So you could try isolating a different aquarium. Maybe it gets its appetite back. Maybe it does better. Could have, you know, gill flukes going on. Could be like some kind of disease or parasite. But when you just see something not doing well, it's really hard to know what. One of the easiest things is isolate. Okay, it lives by itself. I put food in. Did it eat it? Oh, it's gone. Must have eaten it. Oh, it's got a belly. Must have eaten it. Right? So isolating could help a bunch, and that's where I would start. And it's a guessing game. It's a calculated game of guessing of like, okay, well, it ate, so all right. Still getting skinny. It's not gasping anymore, but it's skinny. All right, let's feed it for another month. Is it putting weight on? Watch its feces. You know, if the feces has translucent little nodules in it, might have internal tapeworm, right? So I would start there, and it's a long process and not easy, and that's what makes it hard. And that's why in general we're not good at fish disease, and I say we as in hobbyists, because there's so many of them. There's hundreds of them, and is that the problem, or is it king tiger bar beating on it that's the problem? And is it making it worse? Like sometimes just stress will make something. Can't think of a disease, but let's say you had like skin issue or something, and maybe it goes away, but then under extreme stress it comes back, right? And you can get that kind of stuff with animals and fish too. So makes it hard. So all you can do is try and isolate factors down, and then make educated guesses and do your best. That's the reality, because most people won't spend a few $1,000s to figure out why a tiger barb isn't eating dinner tonight. All right. As a customer, I'm happy with Fluval. As a shopper, it is strange because many USA products are listed on the Canada side. Yeah, that's, a lot of it, like the Fluval 2.0 was registered in Canada. So they've got a big presence in Canada. I think headquarters might be in Canada. And the Fluval 2.0 was sold in Canada because they paid to have all of the certifications and everything done. The Fluval 3.0, I don't think they've paid to have that done, and so therefore, it's not sold up there, which is a weird thing. It would be like us launching a product but not selling in the United States. It doesn't make sense. Like, whoa, that's weird. But I think they might have gotten burned a little bit with the 2.0, because the 2.0 came out. Well, the 1.0 came out, and it was way too high a price. Then they brought the 2.0 out, and that was a great light. Still is a good light. And then they came out with the 3.0, but it was only like a year later. And each one of those, like the cost to get something certified as safe and all of that is very expensive. And so I think they were gun shy, and maybe they know, and this is 100%, I have no idea. So don't be like, oh, I'm awake, Corey said. But maybe in their mind, they know like, oh, 7.8 months from now, we're dropping 4.0. Or maybe, whatever they're going to do. I have no idea. But, big corporations work that way. So I don't know. It's really weird that you can't get it up there. I'm not an electrician. I don't certify lights, but the people that come down and buy them in America and drive them back up to Canada, they seem to work just fine, and they love them. So I think it's a certification issue, and I don't know how much it costs to do that in Canada, but I feel like I would do if I was launching that light and my home base was in there. All right. How do I get rid of hair algae? So one, look at your nutrients. If you're dosing tons of iron, ooh, tell me I at least have that. Yes. If you're dosing too much iron, one of the symptoms could be hair algae, so make sure you're not just going overboard on the iron. Two, get something to eat on it. Like right now, in one of the 75 gallons there, I'm quarantining 60, that's right, 60 Florida flagfish, so that we can use them at the warehouse. So strategically, we can put them in some tanks where plants grow a little algae, or they come in with a little bit of algae. You don't want to put them with very fine plants, so like maybe dwarf baby tears. They could eat them because they just pull it off. But Siamese algae eaters, Florida flagfish, shrimp, all of those. Sometimes mollies and platies will pick at it. But those are the two steps. Make sure you're not encouraging tons of growth with like maybe the wrong light, too much fertilizer. And then two, work on kind of getting rid of it by something eating it. The two ways. And usually algae takes, weeks or months to come about. And so give yourself some time to get rid of it. People are always like, I want it gone by the weekend. Like, well, if it took 3 months to come on, give it a month or more to go away. You don't need the quick Someone had an urgent problem. There we go. I've been setting up a 230-liter tank past 4 weeks, and I had 2 rosy barbs in there. Ammonia has risen. What should I do? I moved the barbs to Moved the barbs to I don't know what that part means. But I would tell you, go read our blog on ammonia or watch our videos on ammonia. So if you have high levels of ammonia, you need to deal with it somehow. Are you going to use an ammonia binder? Are you going to change water? Are you going to let plants consume it? If there's nothing in there, maybe you let plants do that. There's a bunch of options in front of you. You probably just don't know which one you want to choose yet. So educating yourself on the options available, where I would start, and then see which one fits into your plan. Being that it's a rosy barb tank, probably go with some live plants because they will eat a little bit of hair algae by the way. And let that tank digest that. I'm a big fan of, if you're getting ammonia, letting a tank digest it as opposed to fixing it. Because when you fix it with an ammonia absorber or water changing, that doesn't actually get you much further on the tank cycling or handling it. It just temporarily fixes what's going wrong. And then the culprit, if it was one time you overfed too much, you can fix that. But if you don't know what led to the ammonia spike, it's kind of doomed to repeat itself. My wife followed up with, they moved it to a quarantine tank. So at that point, I would just let the ammonia sit there because it's going to eventually process through. Can I use a 2.5 gallon to culture live food? Baby brine shrimp, Daphnia? The answer is yes, but I would never do it. That sounds like way too much work. It's kind of like, could you grow carrots in a tank this big? Like, yeah, you could, but you're going to grow so few carrots that it's like a waste of time. Same thing with like Daphnia and brine shrimp and all that. It's like, I mean, yes, it's possible. But why? Like with Daphnia, a big container means it's not going to crash very often. You can have more Daphnia. You've got more leeway. And a container this big, it can turn south real quick. That would be my fear. So, in 2.5 gallon, they typically cost more than a 10 gallon. So I would go with a 10 gallon, the bare minimum. But I would do a bucket before I would do. Yeah, I would do a 5 gallon bucket way before I would ever do a 2.5 gallon tank or something. My narrate's mouth is surrounded with white individual patch. Its mouth is. I don't know what that is. Typically, they're like black, right? Watch, because narrate seals are cool to watch eat. Haven't. I don't know. I don't know if that's like a disease. I don't think I've seen that. I can't tell you what that is. Can you crossbreed bettas such as veil tail and a crown tail? Yep, you can. Ooh. And that leads to the rant I've been wanting to do forever. I thought about doing a whole video on this, but I need the rant alert. Wait, how do I do can I do my lights? Oh yeah. That sucks. Hold on. All right, we got rant lights now. They're slightly red. So every day we get emails. Every day I get comments about female sorority betta tank. And what I want to say about it is they're an aggressive animal. Just because they're female doesn't make it gonna work. And so the rant I feel like I need to do is, imagine you have a different animal, right? That's very aggressive. It's the honey badger. I don't know, right? If you put 2 honey badgers in a 10-gallon aquarium, they'll kill each other, right? Take 2 female honey badgers and you put them in that 10-gallon aquarium, they're still going to kill each other, right? But you might go, or maybe try to think of an animal where the male is more aggressive and more powerful that I actually know anything about. Because I was going to say lions, but then I actually believe if you watch like National Geographic, the female lioness is actually like a more adept predator. So someone was going to tear me apart in the comments, but that might be a good example. Let's just say that the body mass of a lion male lion, it's a better killer, right? Okay? But the female is a lesser killer. That still doesn't mean either of them are coming into my house. Okay? And when it comes to the female bettas, just like the female lions, they're not going to get along. Like, it's still an aggressive species. So that's why it doesn't work long term. Everyone says, I know a person that knows a person that has the best female betta setup you've ever seen. Yes, sure. Fine. You know, the guy down the road has got 6 elephants in a cage and it's awesome. I don't know, right? It doesn't matter. When you look at the numbers of, let's say you worked at a pet store and you watch the next 500 people come in, they get 6 female bettas and they put them in a 20 long, and then within 18 months, that setup is 100% not working anymore. Like, 2 out of those people, maybe it's still working. All the other ones have failed horribly, had illness, had egg-bound issues, had just, oh, someone got murdered. It just didn't work out, right? And that's the problem, is we see this holy grail of like, oh, it looks so good, someone did it, and we're not looking at why it doesn't work. And at the root of it is, like, we're taking an aggressive fish, and by aggressive, it's not like it's gonna go attack your dog. It's aggressive towards other fish that look like it, which female bettas look like female bettas. So that's strike number 1. They're territorial, right? They're very aggressive during courtship and breeding. They're still gonna do that. They still want to defend territory for when they're building bubble nests for the males, and the females are always on the lookout for males, right? They've got all these traits built into them. That stuff doesn't go away when you remove the male. It amplifies when you add a male, so it gets worse, right? But it doesn't take away the problems they already had. And so I get it. Bettas are cool. They're a colorful fish, right? But in general, female bettas, in my personal opinion, are kind of like platies. They get about this big. They're full of color. Hey, look at that red one. Hey, look at that red platy, right? Look at this blue platy. Look at that blue betta. There's lots of color variations there, but one of them isn't so aggressive, and one is pretty aggressive. And I don't understand why we're trying so hard to kind of put the square peg in the round hole of like, you're gonna live here and you're gonna do this. And I also wonder, what about the demographics makes it so, like, if you own an axolotl, there's like 116% chance you're dying to have a female sorority aquarium. I don't understand why that goes hand in hand, but it typically does. And so the alternative is, why not go with just one male, one female, or pick a different species of fish, or try something that already isn't tried and true to be a disaster. So try that 700-gallon aquarium for female betta sorority. Try that female betta sorority pond. Try, these things instead of like, oh, well, the common wisdom is put this death tornado together and you'll have a 1 in 20 shot that it works. They always leave that part out. And, while I'm on the rant train, there are so many blogs and information websites out there that are just terrible, that new aquarists get suckered into, and that is a horrible thing. What is it, like, top betta tank mates? I feel like I stumbled upon this, and it was literally like the worst list I had ever seen. I almost made a whole video, but then I don't like disparaging someone else, but it was terrible. Like, I swear to you, it recommended like African cichlids. I want to find it because it was just insane. This one's actually pretty, but I don't know if someone sent it to me or what, but it was the worst. And so I think that's part of it is, I'm against this, even though I kind of do this on a macro level. The websites that exist to purely get clicks onto affiliates are the worst information sources out there, because if I know that people are searching for 20-gallon betta sorority tank and I can link all these beta products to Amazon and get paid for it, the information I put in there doesn't really matter. And that's the problem, because they don't really have to like worry about a bad, a bad reputation or anything like that. And so they're just getting paid. Let me see. This one's not. That one's not terrible, but it is that. And so when we're doing it, I'm trying very hard to not oversell on our blogs and be like 5,000% information, and then but give you the link like if you want to buy that. If you're actually looking to buy that thing, we do sell it. Like I got to remind a viewer, like, we do sell that, but I didn't write this article so you'd buy it. And that's where I think one of the biggest problems we have in the hobby is right now is these websites that are money driven and therefore don't deliver on the information, which I realize is on my own contradiction, I guess, or I'm an example of this. Like, our website exists to make money. There's no doubt about that. But I put like a different set of glasses on to go, regardless of money, is this accomplishing what they were trying to do? And I believe that's why you'll see us link to things that we don't sell and won't necessarily be an affiliate. We do have some affiliate stuff. I say we don't. But, it's how you know about people like Greg Sage, Goliad Farms. We recommend Twin City Guppies. We will mention companies that we have nothing to gain because we do Aquabid, right? We recommend these things and these places because they are good, valuable info. And so, no. I do find it hilarious that this is 10 best tank mates for your betta, and the picture is an angelfish. But they say don't put an angelfish. Yeah, so anyway, betta sororities, we all want them to work. They're cool. Female bettas are fairly cheap. And we all have the dream of like, if I had a bunch of female bettas, I could move the betta in with the male, make babies, and that's a great thing. But it just doesn't work, and that's the problem. So, and I'm not saying it's never worked, because it does, but the odds are stacked against us. So that's why we rarely ever have female bettas in the store, because every time it leads towards people wanting to make a betta sorority, and then them being disappointed. Sometimes they get out of the hobby and all that. Those are all negative things. We want them to have a good experience. We try to foster that. All right. Pat's Fish Tank says, have an educational aquarium board card game ready to hit Kickstarter. Would you ever be willing to sell something like that? The surface would say unlikely. Now, I say that about most products. You could have the next best product, game related or not, and I'd be like, unlikely. We have very high standards. That being said, I have no idea because I haven't seen it. I think it's a cool idea you're doing, but just because, well, that's a good point. Just because a product is good and awesome doesn't necessarily mean Aquarium Co-op should sell it. Just like we don't really sell saltwater stuff. Aquarium, right? Yeah, but it doesn't really make sense for our business model, right? Same thing, we don't sell like a item that we don't really good, but doesn't make sense. We could probably sell 20 different types of fertilizer meant for different types of tanks and all that kind of stuff. We don't, because we focus on the people that want an all-in-one fertilizer, new to the hobby, low to medium light plants, easy maintenance, not super high tech. We focus on that and try to do our best at that instead of going, you're new to the hobby, here's 21 different fertilizers. You need to pick one of those and then study about it and learn how to use it and buy the right equipment that matches that. So, no, but I'll be, definitely when your Kickstarter launches, send us an email because I'll take a peek at it. But please don't be offended if I'm like, heck no, I wouldn't sell that. Even if you have the best product in the world, I have no idea what your price to sell it to me would be. Does it make sense for it to There's products that don't make sense for us to ship. Like, let's say it's a card game. We really have to make sure it doesn't get wet when we're shipping a plant. Otherwise, we ruin the card game, right? So there's logistics when it comes to shipping and all that kind of stuff. And, who knows? So a lot goes into choosing a product for us. But no, I'd like to see it just out of curiosity of, I don't know how I would do it. All right. My wife says the sound's going in and out on the computer and TV. Great. Great. Nothing better than having problems. Not seeing many sources for rice fish right now. None on Aquabid. We know where we can get some. The place I would look, I don't know if they have any in stock right now. Look at, what is it, wildfishtanks.com? Is that Ryan? I don't even know. Let me see. Yeah, that's, so he's a YouTuber if you don't know him already, and he breeds a lot of his own fish. I know he's been having some success with the rice fish. I just don't know if he has any for sale. Got lots of plecos for sale, snails, shrimp, plants. Yeah. I don't think he's got the rice fish yet, but keep an eye, because making them, gotta have some come out. Yeah. I don't know. Try eBay. Try eBay also. Yeah. Well, right now the problem is it's hard to get fish in the country. Like even if we wanted to order some from out of the country, so you're dealing with who's breeding rice fish in America, and that number is pretty small. You can look into Lucas Brett's, LR Brett's Aquatics. He might. I know he's got rice fish. I don't know if he's got any for sale, but he might have them also. Is it okay to use banana peels, potassium supplement, or coffee as nutrient supplement for your plant aquarium? No idea. I suspect that initially you get a spike in like nitrogen from it rotting and stuff. Long term, I have no idea. That's not something I've ever tested. So there might be someone out there who's like, yes, of course. I don't know in an aquarium though. Inherently, I feel, I come back to why? Why would we do this when we can buy a liquid fertilizer that does this really well and cheaply and efficiently? But again, sometimes we just want to have fun. I can recognize that too. New members joining today. I appreciate that. Eric and DC. Appreciate it. Trying to find Krista's first comment. I've been wondering, because I've heard you talk about it with Murphy, but not Ladybird. Do you need a doctor to move her? Oh, most likely not with Ladybird. Ladybird is only about this big, which means I can get like a, like a wastebasket you'd have maybe at an office where it's like this big. I can kind of scoop her up in that, and she'll come up out of the top of the 230-gallon tank, where Hank is getting, not Hank, sorry, Murphy is getting so big now that I would need a bigger like garbage can. And part of it is, if something was to happen to Murphy, the internet will lose its mind and they will chastise me as the worst aquarist ever be on the planet. We've seen it happen with other YouTubers when they lose a fish. Like, there's always going to be a percentage of people that will say, couldn't you have done, couldn't you have done, couldn't you have done? And the answer is always yes. I could have had 45 vets. Yes, I could have done, I could have done, I could have done, I could have done. But the reality is, didn't do, right? And so with the Murphy move, what makes that so challenging is I don't really have like another ridiculously big aquarium to move him to. Set up the new aquarium, cycle it, and do all of that stuff. And really what I'm doing is I'd have like Dean there, myself, and a trained vet, hopefully Dr. Tim Miller-Morgan, which, by the way, it's 5 o'clock. Dr. Tim Miller-Morgan is on Tank Test's channel right now. So maybe later tonight, go watch it or tune in right now. But a lot of respect for Dr. Tim Miller-Morgan. And I've already talked to him, and he said he could come up and help me. But I would want a trained professional that is used to moving large aquatic animals. And he could guide me on, do we think it's a good idea to sedate or not? Do we have any other tips? Because Murphy or Mubu puffers can't come out of the water. Like, you can't just hoist it up like you would a normal fish, like a big fish. It has to stay underwater the whole time. And so you've got some challenges there. Meanwhile, we'd have to set up an aquarium and do some stuff. And so with Ladybird being smaller, 1, she lives in my living room right now. 2, she'll be coming to an 800-gallon aquarium that's already set up. So that's kind of real easy. Make sure the water in both aquariums fairly close. Get her into a nice big bucket / trash can. Walk her over here and release her in. Like that should be a fairly straightforward move if I've done that correctly, which I would try very hard. Now, I will point out that that move, we could still see her get sick. We could still see her not take the move very well, get really stressed out. There's always things that can go wrong. And in general, I believe most people will do a reasonable level of care, myself included. So let's say there's a 5% chance that something can go wrong and Ladybird dies in the transfer. At what point do you go, well, you should hire a vet, you should do all these things, you should, spend $10,000 to eliminate the 5% chance, right? Or do you spend $10,000 on food and vitamins, better enrichment and tank mates and more water changes and all of that? Like at some point you have to go, I have resources and I need to deploy these resources towards, like maybe $10,000 is better spent on an auto kick-on generator that runs off natural gas, so that in the middle of winter, yeah, we would have heat, but we wouldn't necessarily have air or filtration. So, I think you have to look at that and go, where's the time, energy, and the money best spent? And I believe my odds are very good at moving Ladybird. I think my odds are pretty darn good with Murphy as well, but it is a more technical move there, and having extra sets of brains thinking, oh, careful about that. I hadn't thought about that yet. That might be a thing. Is always good to have. I see lots of people having issues with Colmenares, with live bears. Any info on why this would happen now? Also, since COVID, lots of tap water have changing water parameters. So Colmenares has always plagued live bears. Like the last 50 years, Colmenares and live bears are synonymous. They go together. The only, maybe there's an uptick. Like, so one, this is kind of an anomaly, not an anomaly, like an interesting fact. People are spending way more time with their pets, so they're noticing way more. So before, it would just like lots of stuff went undiagnosed. Now people are like, hey, that thing's doing a thing because I'm sitting at home watching it. So that's going to cause some stuff to just naturally come up in percentages, right? But the other thing that could be going on would be, with not many fish coming in from the US or from outside the United States, we might be sourcing live bears from like Florida. In general, live bears that are in the United States from the farms are worse quality than ones from out of country, from my observation. That doesn't mean every single person. Like a live bear from Greg Sage, gonna usually be really hardy. One from random farm somewhere, typically is just a number thing, right? So when we don't get those ones, or Thailand or Sri Lanka or whichever type of that, where they really do make their living specifically off that one fish, and that's a good point, by the way. A lot of these farms will make their living off of one specific fish, like we only do guppies, we only do platies, we only do X, right? And then like the farms in America, they're typically like, well, we do all the things. What's paying money? We're doing that. Oh, you'll pay more for that? Great, we're doing that now. And so they're not really specialized, where a lot of stuff around the world, it's passed down generation from generation. Oh, we've always done koi. We've always done gold. We've always done live bears. We've always done knife. And so that tends to lead towards a better fish long term than we do all the things, right? Specialized versus not specialized. And so when you have a lot of Colmenares going around, salt really does wonders for that. If you don't have live plants, you can really load up on salt, knock that out of the park. If you do have salt, use or if you do have live plants, use Maricin, and make sure your water is in good condition, usually above 7.0 pH, and usually some moderate hardness in there. And I recommend some Wonder Shells or Seachem's Equilibrium to add that hardness. Not so much. Fresh coral raises pH, but not a lot of calcium minerals in there. And then puddle bone, I don't think dissolves fast enough for your average live bear. That's weird that the sound cuts out every once in a while. Oh, I wonder. Let me see if I can fix it. I'm going to add that. We'll see if that, yeah, we'll see if that, try that. All right. What is the membership thing? Asks William. It's a giant scam I've got going to steal your money. basically what happens is you support the Aquarium Co-op by giving us $5 a month, and then a few times a month, I don't want to even say that. Sometime in this lifetime, I upload things. There'll be months where I upload something every other day. There's months where I only uploaded one thing. And typically it's pictures, little extra videos. Last week, let me find that video, by the way. Not a lot of people watch that video. Oh, I just like burped. My apologies. But we released a members only video last week, and I think YouTube broke it a bit because not everyone uses the community page, and so not everyone got to see it. And I like that video. It was a 12-minute video that I made on my pond, and I liked it. So under the membership, I'm going to link this whole playlist. You can't stop me. And even my wife is in it, so you get to hear my wife's voice and everything. I share it once I find the right chat. So I made that video on koi pond, and that is, you know, and some pictures and stuff. So you basically, for $5, you get some extra videos that YouTube normally hates. So normally when I talk about my koi pond, YouTube just goes, no one wants to hear about it, how dare you? And then the super fans like to hear about it. They typically become members. And then every once in a while, like I think a couple weeks ago, we gave a discount for the Teespring shirts, you know, but it's kind of like an extra way to, when you get some status symbols, you get some extra emojis and that kind of stuff. And I call it a giant scam. It's not a giant scam. I do appreciate it. And it's kind of like a little, I don't even want to call it a club because that seems weird. It's somewhere you can show your support. That's about the best thing I got going for you. Yeah. Any update on the Aquarium Co-op website chat room? All data shows to not worth it. The amount of money it cost, what it would take to staff it, what we were hoping to accomplish wasn't accomplished. So for now, it's a dead idea until I come up with ways to figure out what I think it went wrong. So yeah, but good experiment nonetheless. Got some Microgeophagus ramirezi, so German blue rams this person has. 1 male and 2 females. One of the females is picking on the other. Is that normal in a 20-gallon? Yeah, they're territorial species. Give them lots of hides, lots of line of sight blocks. And in fact, we have a guide on how to breed rams. Watch that. It'll talk about the line of sight blocks. You might have to remove the female, but in general, you know, lots of plants, lots of just out of sight, out of mind is what helps you there. Is there such rain ketchup? Is there such a thing as a low light floating tropical plant? Salvinia can go pretty low. Wow. Duckweed can go pretty low. Those are the yeah, those are the two. Those are the two I would. Well, no, there's still more. It's kind of a misnomer. What I mean by that is when you have a light and you have plants, the further from the light you are, the less light the plants get. So a low light floating plant actually takes quite a bit of light because it's way up here next to the light. There are a bunch of plants in your aquarium that you could float. So things like Bacopa, Pogostemma salatus octopus. Most stem plants, if you float them, they will grow underneath the light because they're really close to the light, and then they grow roots out from it. Great thing. Water sprite, a lot of stuff will do that. So they might need medium-ish light, lowish to medium-ish light if you plant them down in the gravel, but if you float them 1 inch from the light, they're getting way more light. And so now, if you have a light that's not that powerful, because they're so close to the light, it is powerful, if that makes sense. And so a lot of these things, if you were really struggling with a plant that's only this tall, your gravel and your tank's this deep, you float it for 3 or 4 weeks and it grows this long, and then you plant that thing in. Now it's grabbing light a lot better. So you can play with that. All right. How many rummy nose tetras and cardinal tetras would I recommend in a 55-gallon? I personally would recommend just going with one of those and then going with like 50 of them. When you get to 2 schools, they don't typically like school around together and look extra cool. they was kind of like become this mess of just like there's a bunch of fish in there. So I think one big school of one type looks better to my eye. Can you start green water under 45 to 50 degrees? Yes. I think I had green water all the way through the winter. Is that true? I think so. I think I had green water all the way, and my water was definitely under. Well, you're asking if you can start it. I don't know that I've ever made an actual attempt to start it under that, but I don't know that temperature has much to do with it. Gonna have to try. That's all I got for you, because I don't think I've ever tried to start it in the winter. Yeah. Did you recommend using hydrogen peroxide for fighting blackbeard algae? Certain ways I have, yes. I like to either drain your aquarium down or take the piece out and spray it onto the plant, or the let's say it's your intake for your canister filter, and then give it a quick rinse, put it back in, or fill the water back up after letting it sit for about 5 minutes. That being said, slow and steady always wins this race. If you've never done it before, start by going, oh, let me lower the water level by here and try it right here. Oh, because I put it in a spray bottle, by the way. And so just a little bit, let it sit for 5 minutes, fill it back up, see how it goes after a couple days. Fish doing great, got rid of the blackbeard algae. All right, try it again. This time, I'm going to do this part. Right? And then, oh, that went pretty well. All right, try bigger. But don't just go like Corey said it should work. Drain. I use 16 gallons of hydrogen peroxide. Fill it back up. Everything dies. Like, realize hydrogen peroxide, yeah, it might kill blackbeard algae. Also kills bacteria. Also kills, can burn your skin, can burn, it burns cells, right? So, like, yeah, it's not gonna, you don't go to the hospital for it, but it does dry out your skin. It will dry out fish. Like, there's things that it does. And so, learn how to use something like that instead of just going all in on it. Does temperature help with a cycle? I'm sure there's some correlative data on temperature and bacteria replication, but in general, outside of extremes, like if you're probably above 55 degrees and below 90, it's probably all about relative of like, anywhere in there, it's going to cycle a relatively similar pace. All right, we got about, I hope the members, we're going to try this. So members, if you have questions, get them ready. And I'm going to try turning to member only chat here in a little bit. And we're going to see if this works. I guess that might be another perk coming down the road of like these live streams. If I don't allow super chats, allow it so members can get their questions answered. And so I think that's a fair thing. An hour and a half of anyone's questions getting answered, and then the last 30 minutes, like, hey, you were willing to kick in $5 a month. Why not, help you guys out? So I just used aquarium salt to heal my Betta's fin rot, and his fins are starting to grow back now. During my next water change, should I add the amount of salt I took out or not? I guess it depends on how much water you're going to change. If you're going to change like 20, 30%, I probably wouldn't. Because you'll still have about 70% of that water level and it's going to naturally step down. So if you got 100% of salt right now, you change 30%, it'll drop to 70. Then when you change water in a week later, you're going to take 30% of that 70. So you might only drop to like, oh, we're at 60% salt from where you were at the beginning, right? And so it'll step down pretty slow. And that's typically how I do it. But let's say you change your water and you notice like 3 days later, I think the fin rot's coming back. I would dose that salt up there and go, okay, well, I'm going to keep that up there and run that for a few weeks and really make sure I get rid of that bacteria before I try and step it back down again. But yeah, for me, for the most part, once you get it killed off, you can start letting it taper down naturally. And that I do that with a lot of stuff. pH, hardness, doesn't matter what it is. Like I typically, because I do believe that water changes in of themselves are stressful. So even though we're usually doing it to improve things, that doesn't mean, like, let's say you got to take a wicked big test in college or something, and you're doing it because you're improving yourself, you're getting smarter. That doesn't make it less stressful, right? And I think water change is like, we're doing to improve the situation. Yes, that doesn't necessarily mean it's not stressful to do it though. So while improving, you can still cause stress. And so I try to limit the amount of times I cause stress on the animals if I can. In a perfect world, you'd never have to change water and they'd always be good. So, uh-oh. KG Tropical says, looks like we won't be streaming tonight. Our internet is down in the neighborhood. No. Well, you'll just have to come up and, to support you twice as hard next week. So, I've definitely been there in that situation. Not fun. It's maddening, honestly. But you get to hang out here. All right. Impure says, I've got a question. The last 3 days, there's been foam bubbles on the top of my fish tank. What can it be? Happened when I added sand into the aquarium. All right, so that sand part is very good additional information. So typically, bubbles on the top of the aquarium are a couple things. Either a protein film, like let's say you're feeding a lot of bloodworms or something like that. B could be ammonia, right? C could just be a contaminant, let's say like soap or something, right? Oil. Now, in this specific situation, if we're adding sand to an aquarium, I would go, ooh, did we change the substrate? Because if we did, maybe we got rid of a bunch of bacteria and we got ammonia. If we're just adding sand, maybe the top layer of sand now got smothered with new sand and that bacteria died and caused ammonia. Or is there anything on that sand that has now had some cast off and made the water a little bit extra bubbly? Meds will also do this, by the way. C could be any of those. I would test the water, make sure it looks good. Do a little bit of water change. You can also, if there's like a film on top of the water, yeah, I got paper towels. Like lay paper towels on the top of the water and then lift them off, and that'll take any kind of oils and stuff. So if you're feeding a lot of bloodworms or something, you got that going on, you can try and alleviate that. It's only a short-term fix. Long-term, figure out how am I going to maybe have better aeration? What am I going to do to prevent this? But it could help you in a short term. All right. I'm going to try to make this go members only for the chat. Everyone can still listen, all of that stuff. I'm not even sure this is going to work. So I might give that up in about 2 seconds. I'm just going to try this setting. Where is the set? Oh, right here. Live stream settings. I'm going to try it. I'm going to click the button. Where'd the button go? Right here. I'm going to try it. If it doesn't work, hey, click the save button. Hamsters are running at full speed, it says. Doesn't actually say. All right, we will see. Yeah, it actually did go to members only mode. Okay, we'll try it. Have I ever used, I'm still answering some questions from before, by the way, so it won't only be, I'm letting you guys build up some questions. I'll try and answer some of them. Have I ever used earthworm castings inside substrate? I haven't. I suspect it would work, but I think it's going to be similar to running like a dirt substrate, so it'll be messy over time. It'll be very nutrient rich. I haven't done it though, so I can't speak to what are the the things I liked and didn't like about it. Oh man, they start floating after 2 weeks or anything like that. I don't know. All right, so we got lots of member stuff. How would I fix ripped betta fins? I would just feed it well and maybe a little bit of salt. But if it tears too far down, it'll never fuse back together. If it's just a little bit of raggedy stuff, it should regrow over time. In general, though, I don't try to fix those things. And I know that might sound weird, but like, imagine I adopt a dog, right? And maybe that dog got a weird limp, but it loves running, it chases the ball, it does whatever it wants to do. I'm not necessarily going to make it go have surgery and be like, well, I need you to walk like a, like a trained show dog, right? And same thing, like the betta having ripped fins, I don't believe has any detrimental impact on that fish's life. In fact, most fish in the wild, fins are shredded, they're missing scales, they got all kinds of stuff wrong with them, and they have no idea. It's all the same to them. And so I wouldn't put too much on, let me fix something that might not need to be broken other than like a vanity thing. Well, I want my dog to gallop like a weird horse or something, I want bottom dwellers and algae eaters, coolies and hillstream loaches, dwarf cories, dwarf ottos, and bristlenose. Quality of life difference between a 40 breeder, 50, and 55. There will be no quality of life difference in any of those. And the reason I say that is you're analyzing like fish that are about 2 inches in tanks that are all big enough that they'll never notice the difference. So none of those 3 dimensions will have any significant difference. Like a 55, 4 feet long, 40 breeder, 3 feet long, but wider. You know, about the only thing you could quantify, and this even then, would be take the square area. How many square inches of bottom footprint is there? Oh, this one has 7 more. Technically, that would be, 5% better. But I think the biggest difference out of all of those, which one do you think looks the best? Oh, 50. Like I really like 55s. I also like 40 breeders a lot. But it depends on where. In my living room, 55 breeder every time. Sitting on a couch, I want a big viewing window. And if I think it looks cool, I'm going to upkeep it better. I'm going to spend more money on it. I'm going to want to feed it more often, do all those things, right? Even if the 40 breeder had a little bit more swimming space, it wouldn't look as cool from a couch or something, and it wouldn't serve my purpose. And I do believe the animals are here in our fish rooms, in our homes to entertain us. And if we're super entertained, then we typically take care of them better. If I'm really having a good time with my dog, I play with it longer, right? I might take it for a walk. I might do all those things. And I think fish are the same way. So I believe they don't have any tangible differences for you. All right. Is the Fluval Nano, talking about a light here, is it high enough light to get good reds on Scarlet Temple on a 15-inch cube if it's directly under the light? Or should I go for the Fluval 3.0? I think directly under that light, you'd be fine. Really what you're looking at, and I don't have either of those lights near me, but it's the same LEDs. And so you're either going to take a chunk of LEDs that's like this, or you're going to take a chunk of LEDs like this. Either one, whether the light is this big or this big, directly under that light, if that Scarlet Temple is there, it's going to get like the same amount of light. So being that you said you're going to put it right under it, that's the difference. Now, if you're telling me you got a 15-inch cube and you're going to put it off in the corner and the light's in the center, that does make quite a big difference. But I think directly under it, you're going to find it's relatively the same. Do know that the way you mount that nano light, it is a little bit up compared to the other light. So slightly different, but yeah, what would I do there? I'm trying to think of the price difference. Damn near double. Like that 15-inch light, I think is overpriced. I think they should have launched it cheaper. And that's our price is the cheapest we're allowed to sell it, by the way. So it's not, I don't even have any influence over that. Yeah, I think they could have come in, if they'd come in like 20, 30 bucks cheaper on that, they'd sell way more of them. I don't know if they got the room to do that, but it seemed like at that price, like, ooh, this is a tough sell. All right, some of my stem plants are breaking off at the gravel. Seems like it might be rotting away. Why is this happening? I'm using root tabs and Easy Green. Most often that happens from light. If it's not getting enough light, or if you bought like bunches of plants or plant them too close together, they can rot. So you want clean, strong stems when you do plant them. And then you want to make sure there's room between each of them so they're not crowding each other in the gravel. So like if you bought let's say a bunch of bacopa or a pot of bacopa from us, you wouldn't take all the bacopa and just jam it in the gravel. You take each stem and you plant it separately so it's got enough room. Because when you plant them densely, the light can't get to them and they tend to rot out at the bottom. Other than that, I'd have to look at it some more to have a reasonable guesstimation. Okie dokie. I put root tabs. One's from Tropica. Oh, he lives in Canada. Okay. About 2 inches from the base of a sword, and it stopped growing and roots disintegrated. Was it over-fertilized? I don't think so. I don't know how big that sword is, and I don't know the exact thing, but in general, like if I had a sword plant, if you got one brand new that you bought from us, let's say, I'd put one under there, but like a month or two later, you'd start putting 6, 7, 8, 9 of those in there. They eat a lot. So I would also investigate by putting one tab in there. Did it burn through that thing in like 4 days and then it's super hungry? I would make sure that it, like dig around a little bit and like, is it still there? Did it get consumed? Are the leaves, like, are the bigger leaves on the outside wilting back and therefore, that it's a nitrogen deficiency, or is there something completely else going wrong? Let's see. Is there any experience keeping a black ghost knifefish with discus? I haven't done that. It probably would work though, especially if you're running more towards like 80, 82, not so much the higher range. You can run them hotter though, but I don't have a lot of waste. I was reading another super chat. I don't have a lot of experience with it, so I don't have like practical useful tips. Like when I did it, I found X. It's mostly like, I mean, I've seen it done. I've done it in the store while they're being sold, like that kind of stuff, but not like, oh, at year 4, I found that this happened. Tips on helping Epistogramas with constipation. He's having issues expelling waste. He has very long waste. It's the color of his food, not white. And I can't get him to eat any veggies. You want to use something that's high in fiber. So frozen brine shrimp is a great one for this. Make sure nitrates are low in the water. Also, water changes tend to help get things moving through fish. In an extreme scenarios, you could start looking into dosing some Epsom salt, which is magnesium. It's a muscle relaxer that helps move some things through. But I would start with make sure nitrates are relatively low and getting some things with lots of roughage in there. And so like spirulina brine shrimp would be a good one. Even just normal frozen brine shrimp would be good also. Have you ever kept any native darter species? No. I like the green ones. They look super cool. He's got a group of orange throat darters and first-hand observation or discussions. The reason I don't keep them is most times when you get them, you got to feed them only live foods, and that's a lot of work. And so I haven't had anyone locally be like, I got them breeding and they're eating flake food. Would you like some? I would say yes at that point. But when you're ordering them from like Jonah's Aquarium or Aquabid, most times they're coming in kind of used to eating live foods. That's going to be a hard transition to my aquariums. And so I just go, Is a 25-gallon tub too small for summer tub and various platies? It's definitely on that small side, but it's not too small. Like I would keep those platies in a 25-gallon aquarium, but you might not get gangbuster results of like I made 200 of these things. You're gonna be like I made like 8. You know, gotta have a little more room to really get those numbers going. I'm having some slightly green cloudy water in a 55. Can I filter it out with filter floss? Probably not. Water change is the only option? Probably not. In my experience, the only valid options are UV sterilizer and blacking out the aquarium, which also affects the plants. Every once in a while, I can treat it through water changes, but not likely. Man, I always get towards the end of the show and start losing my voice a little bit because I don't drink enough during the show to... I even prep myself by drinking a little bit of like warm broth today with my No Problema cup. No Problema. Can I add fallen tree branches to aquariums? I'm just going to say no with a yesy aftertaste. Anything that has sap in it, the saps can be toxic. If it was sitting out long enough, maybe, but there are some woods that are toxic. So if you do enough research and you Google it and they're like, yeah, of course you can add cypress, which cypress usually is when you can after it's been sat out long enough, then yes. But if you don't know what it is, no. So you got to do some research there. And I don't do it very often. I don't have access to all your guys' yards, so I haven't even tried all those woods. I'm looking for an alternative to erythromycin to combat cyanobacteria. I can't get erythromycin in Canada. Look into, what is it? The company that makes ChemiPure makes it. The Blue Algae Gone or something like that? Let me see, what is that? Blue-green slime stain remover. Ultra Life makes it. See if that's available up there. There's also Boyd ChemiClean, which does it. Both of those, I don't know if they're available in Canada though, so you got to look. But I don't know of anything else besides those. And they swear up and down that they do not use erythromycin to do it. So I don't know what chemical concoction they have that actually treats that, but I swear the powder looks just like it. I don't know. All right. Ooh, I am falling behind, way behind. So I'm going to start this right now just because a lot of people are chatting and there's a lot of stuff I've missed. For sure, I will not be able to answer every single member-only question here. I'm going to do as many as I can, but let me start by saying I'm sorry, because I now see there are way more questions and there is even time left. So I will do what I can here. I can't even, I'm still scrolling up to see where I left off. Custom 90-gallon tank with an Oscar and a 10-inch pleco. Oscar picks on the pleco frequently, yeah. Try putting Oscar in a separate tank for a few hours. Any other suggestions? My suggestion is they need a bigger aquarium. You know, the problem with a 90-gallon aquarium is only 18 inches front to back. And you're going to have an Oscar that's going to get 14, 16 inches. It's just a, you know, it's a bull in a china shop. Not a lot of room in there. And you got a 10-inch pleco in there too. And so you've got these like big fish that are going to want big homes. And as they run out of space, they get more irritable. So my answer there is rehome one of them or get a much larger aquarium. Those are the two viable solutions, I think. With all the spotted Congo puffers spawning around the world, how would you advise people culture paramecium long term? Well, I would do it in smaller batches, and I would find what works for you. What works for a lot of people is the banana peel trick, and that is you get a portion of banana peel, you put it in like a mason jar, you put it in the windowsill, and if you get a starter culture, it's even better. And then you might like make pour some of that into the new culture and put another banana peel in every 2 weeks or something like that. You kind of need an organic material rotting source as the food catalyst to feed this paramecium, and then it's really a lot easier if you get paramecium as a source from someone. But then finding what you can keep going and what your spouse might tolerate sitting in the kitchen window or wherever you're going to put that, right? And you can usually order on Aquabid, or any local clubs would have. Well, usually there'd be someone in there that can get you some. Forgot to turn off my UV sterilizer after dosing General Cure. Should I repeat the dose? I don't know how fast it would. Well, when it comes to UV sterilizers, part of the problem is there's dwell time. And so breaking down a medication versus killing ick versus killing green water would all have different dwell times. So if you had like a 4-foot UV sterilizer on a 55-gallon tank, probably nuked that medication. But if you have like, what do they call those things? The not easy green killing machine or whatever from like a Petco. It's like a 2-watt bulb. Like those things would never break down anything but green water. So you're probably safe there. But I don't have the answer because I don't know what's your dwell time and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know. So even if you're like, my dwell time is 2.76 gallons per minute, like, oh, I wouldn't even be able to tell you like, oh, based on that, I know that, General Cure has a 9.62 dwell time to break it down. I have no idea. So, but in general, you're going to dose a couple of times anyway for General Cure when it comes to, following up a few weeks later to get any of the residual eggs and stuff. And I believe that while you forgot this time, continuing the treatment and everything, you'll still get the desired outcome long term. All right. Duckweed for a goldfish. Does it need an air stone in a 5-gallon bucket inside? No. You can grow it just in there, although it might get a little swampy smelling. Do know that. Could get a little swampy. I remember a whisper of larger packs of root tabs. Any updates? No updates currently. I definitely, prodded Randy a little bit. He said, hey, I'm on it. We're working on it. That's where I get into trouble when I mention things, because most things just take months. And so I'll have to deal with that question for months now. But when it launches, you guys will know. The Med Trio safe for clown loaches. Yes. What's that, Corey? Your spiel? Yes, every fish you've ever seen in my store or in my fish room gets the Med Trio. Even those ones? Yes, even those ones. What about yes, even those ones? What about yes, that one too? But yes, that one too. Every single fish I've ever come in contact with in the last, how long the story was, 7 years, at least 7 years, gets the Med Trio. So yes. Now, that doesn't mean that you couldn't overdose. That doesn't mean your fish couldn't have insane amounts of parasites and dies from internal tapeworms because he killed them all. There's still things that can go wrong. But yes, every single fish gets it. And yes, I do recommend you do it. You don't have to do the trio all at the same time. You could split up the treatments and going, oh, I'm just going to deworm. Oh, they just came in. They look like they have ammonia burn. For now, I'm just going to focus on like the erythromycin aspect of it. They don't have to all be done at the same time. But yes, every fish gets the trio. All right. Talking about mollies. Mollies are awesome. I don't have anything to talk about, though. I'm not playing with them. I want to. Not at the moment. Building a large acrylic tank, good or bad? In general, I don't think it's worth it. So acrylic on the surface is very expensive. If you're buying the correct acrylic to build large aquariums, the cost is very high. Proportionally, paying someone to put it together, not very high. So, like, let's say, just as a general rule here, let's say for someone to build an aquarium is $1,000. Like, you're paying a company to build it. Now, if they're building an 800-gallon aquarium, the labor doesn't change. It's still $1,000 worth of labor. You have them build a 55-gallon aquarium, it's still $1,000 worth of labor. What the difference is the amount of acrylic and how thick the acrylic is. So as you get to bigger and bigger tanks, no, I don't think it's worth it to build it yourself. You're building like a little cube with thin acrylic. Yes, it might be because you're like, oh, I spent 50 bucks on acrylic. I built it myself. There's not that much pressure. If it breaks loose, not horrible. But the bigger the aquarium gets, the less it makes sense for you to be building it because you have to get more and more dialed in. When you start getting, like if you just have acrylic that lays weird for a little bit, it keeps that warping forever. So, yeah, that I definitely I can't sleep at night, but in general, the longer or not the longer, the bigger that tank gets, the less it seems proportionally it's worth it. Like it's always going to cost you more to have someone else build it, always. But you know, at like if I just bought the acrylic, I probably only would have saved like $1,000 to build this thing, and I don't have a complete acrylic tool shop made to build tanks ready to go. And so the craftsmanship is just better than what I would do. Now we did, you know, kind of we built a sump or we cut it down. We, you know, there are times to kind of DIY some projects, but big aquariums I feel like is not the time. Have I used any auto doser for ferts? Yes. What's that, Corey? You have a video dedicated to auto dosers and fertilizers? Yes, yes I do. Go to YouTube, which you're already on right now. Hit that little search thing on our channel and type in auto doser and ba-bam. You will see the one that is hooked up. Ooh, can we see it? Can I move the camera? Oh, you can see the gallons of Easy Green up there, but there's also an auto doser up there as well. And yes. And we use them at the warehouse. Most auto dosers are fairly similar. There's not anyone that's like, oh man, that one's way better. Like, and I've tested the Wi-Fi ones and I've tested the analog ones, and in general, they work. They're good. Buy what fits your budget. I would say if I was buying one tomorrow, I'd buy another analog one. I've got the wireless ones, and they're just, I wouldn't say they're any better. They're more expensive, but I don't proportionally, they're not better. Yeah. Have you ever heard of Morse code tetras? I haven't. I don't know about those. All right. $20 from Tyler Burton, or Barton. Well, thank you very much, Tyler. And you're a member. Double thank you. Any advice? Oh, the advice you gave me on breeding Corys worked amazingly. Overfed Akari wafers, and 2 days later, they boomed. All right. German blue rams are laying eggs. None of them are hatching, though. Are you getting them to lay like on a little stone and removing them and putting like some ethylene blue? I would try that. In general, most ram breeders have a lot of fungusing going on, but you just start getting so many to lay that it doesn't matter anymore. But if you only got one pair, I could see where that would become a problem. Alrighty. Anyone have experience with good dither fish for Julietochromis transcriptus? I really like using Cyprichromis, another Lake Tanganyika species. If you really want to go cheap, just grab yourself some white clouds. But I don't think it makes a huge difference in them being out and about. They're still cave dwellers in general, but I do like the Cyprichromis with them. Okie dokie. Scrolling down, I'm trying to, like, you know, address as many, I was gonna say important, it's not important, well-crafted questions. A lot of chat going on, which is good. I would like a fish that are very colorful but not cichlids. What are my options? Lots of live bears, rainbow fish, live bears and rainbow fish. Those are the best ones I got. There's lots of cichlids, but you're probably meaning African or Central and South American cichlids. Things like angelfish are also cichlids. Anabantoids can be very colorful, like bettas. Let's see here. My CPD fry are 4 months old. Can I move them into adult tanks? They're eating the same foods? Probably. I mean, the rule of thumb, I would say, is that as long as they don't fit into the other fish's mouth, they're going to be okay for the most part. And if they're eating the same food, that's even better. I can't imagine it's a competition thing. What's the best way to drive a fish long distance? Like if I wanted to buy something at your store and drive it home to Alberta, Canada. I would watch the video on us bringing fish back from a convention where we drove them across the country. But basically we used cycled sponge filter, an air pump that plugs into a cigarette lighter, and mostly that. Like we kept it reasonably warm in the car while we drove. Yeah. We did water changes throughout, you know, every few days or so. Yeah, you can watch that video. And when they come back in stock, which hopefully will be next week, the USB air pump, I wish I had had that when I did my trek with fish. Am I still working out? Nope. Nope. I've fallen off the wagon hard. I'm itching to get back in the gym. I've got, well, I shouldn't say I don't work out at all, but I'm lucky to work out like once every 10 days now, where I was working out 3 times a week. But I will say this, I am doing a lot more stuff outside, which is not a direct replacement to lifting weights or something like that. But, you know, like working on cleaning filters and stuff 4 feet down in a pond and stuff, like definitely building up a good sweat and being sore the next day. But it is not the same as working out. And I am looking forward to getting back into the gym at some point, because I do want to go back to Peru. Not that I couldn't go to Peru now, but the better shape you are in Peru, the easier it is. Like even the people that work on the boat full year round, even they get really tired, but they can do more. And I think if you mix the passion of, I want to take a look at that brown fish over there, with lots of endurance training, you can go further. Like they've got all that endurance and like stuff like that, but that brown fish over there, they don't really care. I think if you pair those two, you could really find some stuff. So, all right. Moving at the end of the month, I've got 4 tanks. Any tips to help smooth this as smooth as possible? I'm mostly concerned about my biggest 175 gallon. Oof, that's a big one. Coolers. Buy yourself whatever the cheapest coolers you can get and siphon water in there. Split the fish up as many times as you can. Get like some USB air pumps or an air pump that can run a bunch in the back. Load up a van. Not so much a truck, but a van, because it's easier to temperature regulate. Because people load them in the back of a truck and they don't realize driving on the freeway where you got to go like makes water evaporative cool a lot, and it freezes them. So you get those, and then mostly do 1 tank at a time. That I can't stress that enough. So if you have a 10 gallon, a 55, a 75, and a 175, move each tank. Don't break 4 tanks down. Move 4 tanks, set 4 tanks up. Move 1 and set it all the way up, get it going, go back, do another one, go back. It's going to be way more work, but it's way safer. So that's the way I would do it. Smaller tanks, go ahead and drain them really low, get the fish into a bucket, and then just like, I just move them. 55 and less, you people can usually handle. Anything bigger than that gets rough. You got way too much substrate, that gets rough too. Yeah. Build a plan. My wife says only less than a foot left while we finally fill the pond back up. Takes a long time to fill that up. Woo! We're doing it over days, draining it over days too. What are my plans in an 800 gallon? Want to replace the background. Want to get Ladybird, my Maboo puffer, in there. And I think I kind of want some Juraparis, some longfin rosy barbs, and whatever else I can think of that will tickle my fancy to look at for a year. And then I'm going to go, I'm bored. Ooh. Is that a goldfish in my hair? It is, right? Can you breed 10 guppies in a 10 gallon? If you don't plan, yeah, even if you do want to sell babies, yes, you can definitely grow them and breed them in a 10 gallon. Is UV sterilizer a good idea for a tank? I've dealt with dropsy, gram-negative bacteria, and was wondering if is a good preventative. UV sterilizers are a good idea. I don't think it's going to help you at all with dropsy, because typically that bacteria would be passed by fish goes poop, another fish eats that poop. That's how it would pass. And UV sterilizer only sterilizes what goes through a UV sterilizer, which that poop is unlikely to go through. Oh no, it's 6:01. I gotta wrap this up. I'm gonna grab a few more here. Scroll way down. Oh man. Oh, KD Tropical is live now? Is that true? Let me confirm. If so, we're gonna send you his way because I don't want to step on his toes. But he was having troubles earlier. Let me look. KD Tropical. Looks like he's live. All right, he's working. All right, so we're going to head over there, and we're going to use a hashtag. And the hashtag is Fluval's Trippin'. Hashtag Fluval's Trippin'. We're going to head over to KD Tropical's live stream. To any of the members that I missed, I'm sorry about that. We will try that again next time. Make sure that works. To those of you that aren't members, hey, sorry about that too. But you still got all the info for free, and whether I would have chosen your question or not, I don't know. A lot of people watching makes it hard either way. Something we'll try. We'll try new things each time. And yeah, thanks for hanging out. I'll be in the chat. Hashtag Fluval Trippin'. Dare they? You have to add in the how dare they, but we're done. Gotta find the right button. See you guys next week, and have fun out there.